bene, pace bene,
pace e bene, pace e bene,
pace bene, pace bene,
pace e bene, pace e bene,
pace bene, pace bene,
pace e bene, pace e bene,
pace bene, pace bene,
pace e bene, pace e bene.
pace bene, pace bene,
pace e bene, pace e bene,
pace bene a tutti,
pace e bene a tutti,
pace, pace bene, pace, pace bene,
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 sia a tutti, sia a tutti,
sia a tutti, sia a tutti,
sia a tutti, sia a tutti, hear the words of Parker Palmer from his book, Let Your Life Speak. He asks this question: is the life I am living the same as the life that wants to live in me? That's his question. Is the life I am living the same as the life that wants to live in me? The title of the book, according to the writer here, is a time-honored Quaker admonition, usually taken to mean, let the highest truths and values guide everything you do. But Parker Palmer reinterprets those words, drawing on his own search, and he writes, before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody, what values you cherish and represent. So this chapter 4, I don't know how far we'll get to it, but we'll see what happens, is about his own experience. And it's called All the Way Down. In modern day culture, especially in the United States and other Western cultures, it seems like everybody wants to go upward. You know, the so-called ladder of success. I was going to say ladder of excess. It's the same thing. And you know, people who talk about spirituality want to ascend higher and higher and transcend the world, transcend ordinary levels of consciousness, which is pure rubbish. Anyway, Parker Palmer has a different way of perceiving this. He believes that the way up is down. The way to God is a downward movement. The way to your true self is moving downward into depth, into the ground of our being. So he's not about ascending different levels of consciousness or any such nonsense. He's about a different direction. And I think it's a more humble direction. After all, we are called humans, right? Not angels. And you all know the derivation of the word human, right? Where it comes from?
I used to.
From humus, H-U-M-U-S, however you pronounce that. And it means soil, basically, or earth.
Oh.
And so we are soil creatures. Okay, we're creatures of the soil. I kind of like that. Wish I had known about that when I was a kid. Anyway, he begins this chapter by referencing Dante, the great Italian poet. And here's what he writes, and we'll just pass it around. Each person could take a paragraph. All the way down, a personal preface. And this is the quote from Dante. Midway on our life's journey, I found myself in dark woods, the right road lost. To tell about those woods is hard, so tangled and rough, and savage that thinking of it now. I feel the old fear stirring. Death is hardly more bitter, and yet to treat the good I found there as well. I'll tell what I saw. And this is from his classic work, The Inferno, by Dante. So then, Parker Palmer begins with these words. Midway in my life's journey, way closed again. You familiar with this expression, way closed? Okay. In Quakerism and the Quaker faith, there's two expressions that have been extremely helpful to people for centuries. One is way opens, which is best I can determine, means something like, I now understand what direction to go in. Way has opened. It's like a door opens. You see it and you go through it. The other one, when you're seeking direction, is way closes. Okay? Which means you have this sense that, no, that's not my direction. It's not what I'm going to be and do. And you wait for way to open. That's the idea. Happens a lot. Midway in my life's journey, writes Parker Palmer, way closed. Again. This time with a ferocity that felt fatal. I found myself in the dark woods called clinical depression, a total eclipse of light and hope. But after I emerged from my sojourn in the dark and had given myself several years to absorb its meaning, I saw how pivotal that passage had been on my own pilgrimage toward myself and vocation. Though I recommend it to no one, and I do not need to, for it arrives unbidden in too many lives, depression compelled me to find the river of life hidden beneath the ice. Carry on from there. Still.
Still, I was unable to write about my depression for a very long time. What I learned and how I learned it remained raw to the touch. Then I was invited to contribute to a journal on the theme of the wounded healer in memory of Henry Nouwen, who was my mentor and my friend. If I were to honor Henry's life in a manner true to his spirit, I had no choice but to write about my own deepest wound.
Henry himself spent time on the dark side of the moon, and he talked and wrote openly about it. But during the years when he and I saw a great deal of each other, I rarely spoke to him about my own darkness. Even in his gracious presence, I felt too ashamed. I am no longer ashamed, but I still find depression difficult to speak about because the experience is so unspeakable. Yet Henry's spirit continues to call me, and many others, to more openness and vulnerability, more shared humanity and mutual healing, even, and perhaps especially, when the subject is so difficult that words seem to fail.
My only real fear about publishing these reflections is that someone may take the wrong counsel from them. Depression comes in many forms. Some are primarily genetic or biochemical and will respond only to drugs. Some are primarily situational and will respond only to inner work that leads to self-knowledge, choices, and change. Some lie in between.
Though I needed medication for brief periods to stabilize my brain chemistry, my depression was largely situational. I will tell the truth about it as far as I am able, but what is true for me is not necessarily true for others. I am not writing of a prescription. I am simply telling my story. If it illuminates your story or the story of someone you care about, it will be grateful. If it helps you or someone you care about turn suffering into guidance for vocation, I will be more grateful still.
Twice in my 40s, I spent endless months in the snake pit of the soul. Hour by hour, day by day, I wrestled with the desire to die, sometimes so feeble in my resistance that I practiced ways of doing myself in. I could feel nothing except the burden of my own life and the exhaustion, the apparent futility of trying to sustain it. I understand why some depressed people kill themselves. They need the rest. But I do not understand why others are able to find new life in the midst of a living death, though I am one of them. I can tell you what I did to survive and eventually to thrive, but I cannot tell you why I was able to do these things before it was too late.
Thank you. Because of my not knowing, perhaps I have learned something about the relation of depression to faith, as this story may illustrate. I once met a woman who had wrestled with depression for much of her adult life. Toward the end of a long and searching conversation, during which we talked about our shared beliefs, she asked, in a voice full of misery, "Why do some people kill themselves, yet others get well?" I knew that her question came from her own struggle to stay alive, so I wanted to answer with care, but I would come up with only one response. I have no idea. I really have no idea. After she left, I was haunted by regret. Couldn't I have found something more helpful to say, even if it were not true? A few days later, she sent me a letter saying that of all the things we had talked about, the words that stayed with her were, "I have no idea." My response had given her an alternative to the cruel, quote, Christian explanations, unquote, common in the church and culture to which she belonged. These common ideas, misguided as they are, that people who take their lives lack faith or love or good works or some other redeeming virtue that might move God to rescue them. But my not knowing had freed her to stop judging herself for being depressed and to stop believing that God was judging her. As a result, her depression lifted a bit. So we'll stop there. Any response to that reading?
I think that's the first time outside of some of the mindfulness teaching I've read would say, stop asking the question to heal yourself, and meaning in that direction of you're asking the questions like, what's wrong with me, over and over, and that's never going to heal. But I have not heard that I don't know approach too much in other spiritual traditions, I guess, and certainly not in Christian that I've known. That's cool.
Any other thoughts?
I think there is a certain peace that comes with being able to, what was the lady's name that he counseled?
Yeah,
Did
he
he
gave her
mention?
name, did he?
I couldn't remember if he gave her name, but the woman he counseled, when she heard there's not really an answer, I don't know what the answer is. And I think sometimes we fight not knowing what an answer is or not having an answer. We get so desperate for that answer. And the idea of not having an answer is scary when it can actually be
that so helpful to say to a person, you think? When somebody says, why do people do this or that, or help me understand it, and you respond with, I have no idea.
Because it means that they're not alone in not understanding. They realize that they're not broken or dumb or flawed for not knowing it. They're just a human having a human experience. And that means a lot of not knowing.
Yeah. And in that moment, then you share that experience with them, which is a beautiful thing. You're not placing yourself in any way in judgment or above. You're joining them, saying, I honestly don't know.
It can also be helpful because often when people are asked big questions like that, they almost feel a compulsion, like Dante said, to at least say something helpful, even if it's wrong. But if someone keeps asking that question and keep getting answers that are only said because they might be helpful even if they're wrong, those answers can be misleading.
Who's the classic example in the Hebrew Bible of a person who seeks help and his counselors, his friends show up?
Oh,
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
yeah.
What's his name? Job. Right. He experiences a rough time, loses a lot. And then his so-called friends show up and they do the exact opposite of what is needed. They try and tell him why this has happened to him, what he should do. And oh, by the way, you're responsible, you're at fault. Don't forget that. And of course, that's not what Job needed to hear. You know, what they could have done, should have done, was just to sit with him in the ashes. That's where he positioned himself, in the ash pile. And a good friend would just sit, just be with. Yeah. So we'll read a little bit tomorrow night, a little bit more of Parker Palmer. I respect this man highly. I only met him once personally, and it was at a conference. It was called The Politics of the Broken-Hearted. It was on a little island called Bainbridge Island off the west coast of this country. And he assembled a group of us together, a diverse group, a very diverse group, about 100 people. And his intention was for us to meet together for 4 days and not kill each other. Because we were a very diverse group. And he wanted to, I think, conduct a social experiment, to see how we could be together with all our differences, and there were all differences imaginable, and listen to each other. You know, just listen. And at the end of the first day, I thought it went well, but little did I know that by the end of the first day, certain groups of people were ready to leave because they felt unheard. They felt that the whole conference had an agenda that was set, that was not anything to do with what they needed. There were young people who decided they were going to leave. There were women. There were gay and lesbian folk. There were African American people, people of color in general. And many of them said, that's it, we're done. When he heard about this, he gathered us all together. Parker Palmer we're talking about now. And that was the next day, next morning. And he gathered us all, and I wish you could have been there to hear what he said, but more to see him as he spoke, because he's the one that set the agenda, right, for this conference. And he began the conference by apologizing. And then he wept. He openly wept. And he said, my deepest fear is that I become irrelevant to the younger generation, and just trying to tell, you know, instead of here. And so at that point, when he wiped away his tears, he had talked with several people in advance, those that represented the people who were ready to leave. And he announced that they would now be leading sessions of their choosing, their topics, their interests, for the remainder of the 3 days. It was a beautiful moment. I had already respected him highly. Now my respect grew even more for him. And so the rest of the conference went really well after that. But that's the kind of person he is. He's still living, and he's a good guy. And he's well acquainted with Quaker tradition. Pendle Hill would be the place in Pennsylvania that he was most familiar with, Quaker place. So we'll close with the song. And if we could dim the lights a bit and light some candles, that would be good. Friends of this community, especially Todd and Amanda and their family. Special prayer for them tonight. Grant peace to all. Grant peace to all. Grant peace to all on earth. Grant peace to all. Grant peace to all, and peace to all on earth. And peace to all, and peace to all, and peace to all. Shalom, shalom. Shalom. and peace to all on earth. At the close of this day, a prayer for peace to the peoples and the places of this world that cry out for peace. And especially tonight for Todd and Amanda and their family. May there be peace, healing, and help. May it be so.